Hi, this is Jennifer Woods, and I'm going to go over my lesson plan based off of the PIL lesson on the Linked Learning lesson plan sheet provided to us. I do believe this is my best lesson plan yet. I have created it for, it could work for either 7th or 8th grade, but specifically for special education students, for a class particularly full of students with IEPs. So I've modified it quite a bit. So in this case, we're only looking at the surface area and volume of a prism as opposed to the prism, the cylinder, and the sphere. So just focusing on one type of surface area and volume so those students can really grasp that understanding. So the content focus is, this lesson will focus on how to figure out the surface area and volume of prisms in real world situations. And the objective is, just for the standards, is to solve real world and mathematical problems involving area, volume, and surface area of 2- and 3-dimensional objects composed of triangles, quadrilaterals, polygons, cubes, and right prisms. And the learning objective is for students to determine the surface area of a prism, determine the volume of a prism, apply surface area and volume formula to real world situations. So the students in my class, they've already been taught how to find the perimeter and the area of different parallelograms and different 2-dimensional figures. They've also been able to identify if a shape is made up of multiple 2-dimensional figures, how to find the area of a whole shape composed of multiple 2-dimensional figures, which will help them with their understanding specifically of surface area. So the big thing that students want to learn here using their language is to compare the surface area and volume between 3-dimensional figures. They're going to examine the ratios of surface area and volume, and they're going to determine a surface area given a particular volume. So the way that I'm going to open this up is I'm going to tell students and ask students, okay, have you ever walked into a candy store and tried to choose a candy based off of how big the box looked, or which candy they would get or which box they'd get the most amount of candy, and to consider the idea, okay, how much candy do I really get when I buy a bag of M&Ms as opposed to Reese's or a Snickers bar, and thinking about how much candy is actually in those bags and how much they're really getting. So having students conceptualize really the idea of surface area and volume without introducing the topic. So then in my focus instruction, I'm going to define surface area and volume to students and teach them about the different faces of a prism and introduce the 3-dimensional object without teaching them the formula, just getting them to understand really what these terms mean. So I'm going to show them using like a typical cereal box and using base 10 blocks, showing them how many I can put into the cereal box until it's full to represent the volume, and then talking about the area using these blocks and showing them if I rip the cereal apart and how it becomes flat, and how they can find the area of this square and this square and this square and add up together, and all of a sudden they have the surface area of this whole entire box. So, and then also using the base 10 blocks to show them how they can use those to count just each side. So after I do this, I'm going to have students in their table groups get into an activity, and I'm going to give them 3 different 3D boxes, and I'm going to have them with the base 10 blocks try to find all the surface area and volumes. And then once they do that, we're going to talk about what they found in this activity, which will then introduce the formulas, because most of the students by then will have caught on to the formulas. So we'll start to review that. Then students are going to have a second activity where they're going to build their own 3-dimensional prism, and using graph paper to represent each unit, or technically like the base 10 block. But I'm going to give them a particular surface area to work with, which in this case it's going to be 150 centimeters cubed, and they're going to have to find or that's going to be the volume, and they're going to have to find a particular surface area. 2 different surface areas that would work for that volume. And what's great about this is so many students are going to have different looking boxes, but all of them are going to have the same volume. So it gets students to conceptually and visualize the understanding of, oh my God, all these different shapes can have the same volume, but different surface areas. So it's a great way for students to see and understand and work hands-on in a group. And then they're going to get to present to their group as well. And then at the end, we're going to kind of talk about what they observed in their groups, what they observed about the different shapes, what shapes look like they have a smaller surface area, and which shapes look like they have a larger surface area, or which shapes of prisms that students have created. And then we're going to go back to our thoughts about choosing a candy, and which candy, now that they understand this concept, which one they actually feel has the most candy inside of it, now that they understand surface area to volume ratios. So this is my lesson plan.